Hello, my name is Father Sean McDonagh. I am a Columban missionary. I worked for many years in the Philippines. I want to introduce to you what I would consider one of the most important encyclicals ever issued by a pope. It's called Laudato Si, on care for our common home. Now, in most encyclicals, the first words are in Latin, Humane Vitae, for example, on human life. But this is not in Latin, it's the beginning of Italian. Laudato Si, O mi Signore, is the first line of St. Francis's prayer to God. Now, St. Francis, I would say, of all the saints that have lived in the first and second millennium, he was most sensitive to God's presence in the natural world. He talked about brother sun, sister moon. He talked about his friends in Assisi. So he's very sensitive to this, and of course the present Pope took his name, Pope Francis. But the other thing that's important, on care for our common home. If I was talking to you about this maybe 20 years ago, the assumption would be that's care for the home of humanity. But in actual fact, in this document, it is care for the home of every species on the planet. And that's why it is such an extraordinary new insight. When in the late 1950s and early 1960s, Pope John XXIII wanted Christians to look at the sign of the times. What's taking place in our world that the gospel should respond to? Now, at that stage, he called the Second Vatican Council, which sat from 1962 to 1966. But actually, it had nothing to say about what humans were doing to the natural world. Other groups of people were thinking about this. For example, Rachel Carson, who was a chemist in the United States, began to see the impact of pesticides and insecticides on the bird life and wrote a book, Silent Spring. It's only with this particular document that the Catholic Church has taken really now seriously care for our common home. And unfortunately, it's not even well known among Catholics. In the introduction, he introduces a man who's the Patriarch of Constantinople, Patriarch Bartholomew. And this is what he says. He says, for human beings to destroy the biological diversity of God's creation, for human beings to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes to its climate, by stripping the earth of its natural forests, destroying wetlands, for human beings to contaminate water, its land, its air, and its life. So that's what he's saying. But what's he going to say next? Will he say, well, that's not a good idea, maybe we should stop doing that, maybe we should do something else? No. He says something which is extraordinary. He says, these are sins. Just listen to it. These are sins. I'm a priest for 52 years. I never heard anyone in confession say I had sinned against the world. So this is how deep this new understanding is. This is a whole new way, moral way of living, that now we have to take care of, not just be kind to our fellow human beings, but also take everything that God's creation into our world. And of course, behind this document is data. The Pope is aware what scientists are telling us about what's happening to the natural world. And he always goes back to the scientific basis that we are destroying God's creation, what's called biodiversity. We have records of probably 1.8 million species of plants. We're doing enormous damage to them. Actually, scientists will tell us that we're living in the 6th largest extinction of life since life began. Life is a long time on the earth and in the oceans, 3.8 billion years. The last time something like this happened was in 65 million years ago, when an asteroid hit the earth and caused the destruction that caused the downfall of the dinosaurs. So this is a very serious issue, because we depend on all of these other creatures, for example, for our food, for our medicine, and for all the things so we are now being told to take care of them. And by not taking care of them, these are sins. And we have never been there before. For example, in Catholic cultures like Spain, you have bullfighting. Now, the reality is, if you take this document seriously, these are sins. This is not a way to deal with other creatures. And now, in the last 100 years, we are destroying the oceans. We are overfishing the oceans. We're polluting the oceans. Because of carbon, we're causing the acidification of the oceans. And of course, all over the world, plastic is destroying the oceans. So again, we're being called to live in a much more sustainable way with our planet, and to see that as the center for our Christianity. The Pope makes it very clear, this is for all human beings on the planet. We can join and must join with other people in our country, in our parish. We must be ecumenical and interreligious, because every one of us is facing these challenges today. Every person who comes into the world can either better it or make it worse. So that's why this document is extraordinarily important, and I'd like to see it be read by everyone in our church.